Hello, gentles and lady-men. I am Bison Gaming, and today I am joined by my brother, Chase. How's it going? Chase MD.
On YouTube, like and subscribe. Hi.
Yeah, absolutely. He's linked in my
Last video
on my
was
channel page.
8 months ago, but don't worry about that.
And today we will be ranking every enemy in Crab Champions. We are not doing bosses and elites. These are just the generic ones that you come across in the actual game. And I made custom logos for all of them, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. So, you know, you better subscribe just for the high effort alone. There you go. Although I should have made them a little thinner so that they actually all fit in the page and some of them aren't cut on the sides.
Fine.
But it's fine. It's fine. So we are ranking them from S to D, and specifically we are ranking them from the perspective of how much we want to see them in a run because they are beneficial for us. So if they are a really easy, pathetic enemy that we can eliminate in 2 seconds and is always and is no threat to us, it's going to be an S tier. And if it's a run killer, it's going to be in D tier. Is how I'm making this rank, this first ranking system. Where do you want to start, Chase?
Start from the top.
All right, we'll do the ants first then. We have basic ants. I really like to see ants because they don't chase you very far, so they are one of the few enemies that you can actually take cover from completely. And I generally don't see a whole lot of threat in any of the ant types, so I am very happy to put the generic ants in like the A tier.
You know, you do have to be a little bit careful with them though.
Yeah,
because of the predictive firing that all enemies have. So
yes,
you can get sniped by one, but we can put it in A. That's fine. They're not terribly hard to deal with.
No, not at all. The only thing that is that if you're doing a enemy train around a very big area, it's very easy for ants to get behind you because they're not going to chase you as hard as other enemies are. So they tend to get left behind and then lapped, and then, oh fuck, they're behind me, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Poison ants are basically just ants with slightly more HP. I'm always happy to see these guys. I don't have any issues with them. Pretty much all the same things apply.
Yeah.
What do you think about ice ants?
I'll put them down B, probably. I mean, getting frozen is one of the worst experiences in the game. Mm-hmm. And coincidentally, it's also one of the best elemental things, so, you know.
Yeah. I find ice ants to generally be one of the more threatening ant types because a lot of the ice projectiles are really wide and difficult to dodge. They also have like a kind of a shotgun blast pattern type thing, where they shoot like tons of little balls. As opposed to just the waves. That's the only thing about the poison ants is sometimes they like throw waves, you know? But
all the ants throw waves.
I've only ever seen poison ants and fire ants throw waves. I've never seen the others throw waves.
I'm pretty sure they do. I mean, I could be wrong, but...
Huh. Regardless, let's do the fire ant. These guys are tanky as shit, and they do waves. Now, the waves, I don't really mind that much. I prefer the single projectiles. But, you know, I think they're right around here. I think they're just middle of the pack enemy. I think that's most of the ants. That's where most of the ants are going to be, actually. I think all the ants are pretty similar to each other in threats. And
yeah, probably.
I generally either don't mind or like seeing ants. You know, that's...
I wouldn't say I like seeing ants because I prefer to be able to train enemies, and like you said... they're tough to train because they don't really move.
Right, yeah, of course. Alright, let's I guess we start on the army of different crab variants now.
Sure.
Let's see here. How about the blocker crab?
Don't care about it. I mean, makes no difference either way to a regular crab for me. So
I am a huge fan of blocker crabs. So blocker crabs are tankier, they hit a little harder than normal crabs, but specifically they also have a different AI pattern compared to other crabs, where they will specifically try to get in front of you and cut you off instead of just walking towards you forever, like every other enemy type does. But the reason I like them is because they take up a lot more spawn points than like normal crabs do, and they are and they are pretty easy to take out. They don't have any range on them, so whenever you see a blocker crab, be thankful that it's not like 5 normal crabs, you know. I'm a big fan of the blockers for that reason. You can even get events where the game will only spawn blockers for a round instead of normal crabs, and it's the best thing ever. So I'm gonna put I want to put these in the S tier. I love seeing these guys.
I mean, I'm gonna put them exactly where I put the regular crabs because it really makes no difference to me.
Really? All right. So let's do the regular crabs next. This is just a generic fluff thing for you. You don't really care.
Crab's a crab, honestly, unless it's not, well, basic crabs.
Yeah. For me,
the big boy crabs are
yeah,
they're a different story. You know, the crabs with guns are different than.
It's funny. The generic crab for me is the #1 cause of death in for me in playing Crab Champions. My #1 cause of death is some random fucking crab showing up out of the left side of my screen because he just spawns there and then hitting me really with a quick melee before I can react. That's my #1 cause of death in this game. And I'm not a fan of the normal crab. I want to put it in like the C tier.
Yeah. Either C or B for me, because they like to jump around at you, and they can get to. I mean, they literally can jump everywhere, and they ruin trains very easily. They ruin trains very easily by their jumping. So
there is no escape from the generic crab.
No, there really isn't.
Ice crabs are just normal crabs, but worse. Yeah. They only show up in one biome, but they replace all the normal crabs in that biome, and it's all the horrible things that normal crabs do, but now they freeze you.
I would rate ice crabs lower than regular crabs just because they get frozen, but...
I'm putting this probably at the bottom of the C. It's just not a D tier for me. There are a couple enemies where that I consider like run killers, and I mean, I suppose, yeah, I did say that these guys kill my runs more than any other enemy, but you know what I mean.
I mean, you just learn to deal with the ants because no matter what, you're going to get ants.
Yeah.
Or not ants, but crabs. Sorry.
I know you meant. It works as a metaphor.
Some of the bigger, the crabs with guns, you're not guaranteed to see every run, so those are different.
Mm-hmm. All right, and now we do actually have those specialty crabs. Let's go ahead and put something in the D tier since we don't have something there yet, and I think we can both agree the sniper crab belongs in the D tier.
Sniper crab sucks.
Yeah, he's the worst. Super accurate over a large distance, and they have like 3 points in heavy shot. It feels like where they shoot up and then it curves down, so you can't even take cover behind a rock because they'll just shoot over it.
Yup. There are a few crabs that I would rate worse than them, but yeah, definitely sniper crabs suck.
Yeah. Overall, the special crabs I find are generally worse than the specials of most other enemies.
Yeah, I guess it depends. We'll get to them, but.
Mm-hmm. What's your opinion on the grenade crab?
Grenade crabs are bad, but not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I find them a little bit more. I find them a little difficult to dodge, mostly because they attack in a lot more inconsistent of a pattern. It just throws me off. But you know, they attack less often than some of the other crabs do. So I don't mind these guys. I think they're like a B tier.
B tier? I know. I'd put them in C.
Really? All right. I'll take your word for that one. Alright, one that absolutely belongs in the B tier, maybe even the A tier. Yeah, I'm gonna say A tier for this one, is the shotgun crab.
You would rather a horde of shotgun crabs over a horde of anything else.
Over any of these? Yes. You can just, all you have to do is like be more than 20 feet away from them and moving, and they will never ever hit you. I struggle not at all against shotgun crabs. I think they're one of the easiest elite crab types in the game.
Okay.
Do you disagree?
I mean, I just don't like seeing elites because they're a pain in the ass to deal with, especially if you have the wrong weapon. So, if you're not well equipped to deal with a shotgun crab, if you have a gun that's short range, then you're fucked.
You need some damage, you know, but even the actual shotguns outrange the shotgun crabs. It's really sad.
Yeah, shotgun crab's not S tier for me. I don't know that anything is S tier.
I mean, the S tier is just the ones that you want to see more often than the others. Ideally, you know, obviously.
There's one enemy that I would put in S tier, and it's not an elite crab.
All right, what enemy would you put in the S tier?
The slugs.
Just the generic slug?
Most slugs, probably all of them, but the generic slug for sure.
Yeah, these guys are great. They are working for you. I think they're definitely above the blocker crabs here. Slugs are great. They're just damage opportunities against other enemies. Basically, they're working for you. They're freebies.
The slugs and the pufferfish, both of them.
Yeah, the pufferfish.
Those are about the only two enemies that I would, without a doubt, put in the S tier.
Yeah,
nothing else for me goes in S tier.
I will agree with the slugs and pufferfish in S for sure. You like the pufferfish picture I made?
Yeah, that's great.
All right, let's finish going over the crabs though. Yeah, these guys are working for you. They're just free damage for you. It's great.
They're easy to avoid.
Yeah, you can
they're
literally
predictable.
Just melee them if they get too close and they just go away. It's great. For me though, a second enemy that I would gladly put in the C tier is the lightning crab, or the D tier. I mean, not the C.
A lightning crab would probably go D for me.
Yeah. These guys are the worst.
Not my favorite.
See, I don't mind the fire crab that much, but the lightning crab I do mind because it only does the orbs, and I don't mind the orbs from the fire crab, but the orbs from the lightning crab bounce a lot more and are way more unpredictable and go in a lot more dangerous patterns. And it's just, this is like my number 2 cause of death. Number 1 cause of death right here. Number 2 and like number 3 right here. These 3 enemies are like my big run killers. For sure. What do you think about poison crabs?
I think poison is kind of overrated on enemies. So
I am generally.
I don't hate poison. So I wouldn't, when I see it in an enemy, I don't really think anything of it. So I would put it exactly where, yeah, I would put it in with the other crabs. You know, I actually maybe put it at, C or B-ish.
See, I am very inclined to agree with you in that poison on enemies is very underwhelming because, you know, ideally if you get hit, you don't get hit again for a very long time. However, I do not like the poison crab in particular, and it's going to be probably a C tier for me, just like at the very bottom, specifically because the poison crab is armed with the assault rifle. And like he's got this annoying thing going,
that's right.
Where like if you have 1 HP,
poison crab is D tier because I forgot about the assault rifle.
If you're at low HP, you're done. You can't escape all the assault rifle shots if there's a good number of poison crabs chasing you. These guys are also run killers.
I forgot about the assault rifle aspect of them. They're definitely D tier.
Yeah, we'll put them in the D tier. Wow, it's a very balanced list so far. I don't like it. I like to have my balanced list like based around the D tier. Let's see here. Fire dudes. What do you think? What do you think of the fire crabs?
Fire crabs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought would be to put them in C.
Okay, I kind of like these guys. I want to put them in B. I think they're fun to fight. I think it's just fun to avoid all their shots. If you're clever about your dodging and your aiming, you can dodge like all of their shotguns by jumping back and forth in midair. And I just find avoiding their big fireball fans really fun. It's a lot easier than the lightning crab because the shots don't bounce as hard. So it's a lot easier to see where they're gonna come. You know, I think they have a little bit less range too. But yeah, definitely C to B for me. I genuinely kind of actually enjoy fighting fire crabs. I think they're a fun enemy to fight. And you know, fun is an important factor in these lists too. So. Launcher crabs.
Probably D tier.
Really? You don't like the launchers?
No.
I think they're one of the easiest of the elite crabs to avoid. Because their projectiles are slow and they only shoot every once in a while. They're not as tanky as some of the others. I think they're one of the easier ones.
Yeah. All right.
But we'll meet in the middle and put them in like D tier if you don't like them. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Okay. Let's finish off the slugs. In terms of other freebies, probably. It's tough to say, you know. I don't think any of the others belong in S per se, but I think a lot of the slugs belong in the A tier, you know.
Yeah.
I
will agree with that.
The reason I definitely think a lot of these slugs go in A tier is for this simple reason. When you spot red crystals on the map and you want that extra item, but you're terrified of what's going to come out of those red crystals and hunt you down, because you don't want to deal with a lightning crab, you don't want to deal with all that stuff. You break the red crystals and you get a fire slug, and relief just floods your body. That right there is enough to say, like, yeah, they should be ranked highly.
Yeah, can be a pain to deal with their trails, but that's like the worst thing about them.
Yeah, I will now. Let's talk about the lightning slug first. It's a little faster than the normal slug, and it's also the only armored slug. However, they're also not very tanky, so. These guys are very easy to deal with. They're also like the most common of the special slugs. Another one that is like of no consequence is poison, because as you're saying, poison is extremely overrated on enemies. Now it is worth noting that the poison, the ice, and the fire slugs are all much bigger and have huge blast radiuses on them, and they will like borderline bring you down to 1 health if they hit you, so it's very dangerous. In particular, I think the ice slug is gonna be at like the bottom of A, probably, just because the ice slug trail is a particularly dangerous one. Because if you accidentally walk in the ice slug trail, you're gonna be fucked if there's anything around you.
Correct.
And then the only slug I want to put in B tier is probably the fire slug. And the reason that I want to put the fire slug in the D tier is because fire stacks that do just a little bit of damage will get around your one-shot protection. So if you're at 75 health and then a fire slug pops and you go down to 1, any other slug, you're like, great, I lived! But with the fire slug, you also have like stacks of fire and then you die immediately afterwards. So just for the fact that they can one-shot, I'm inclined to put the fire slug here.
In what, B? Yeah, that's fine.
It's still a slug, you know. It is still a slug, but it's the most dangerous slug for sure.
Yeah.
Alright, let's go over the skulls now. We have the generic skull first. I don't mind these guys, at least in the beginning of the game. Or just at any point in the game, really. Normal skulls are great because I'm like, it's not an elite skull, and it's like a floating target, super easy to hit. Big fan. I'm not going to put him in A tier or anything, but B tier for sure, I think.
I would put him in A tier.
Really?
Yeah, regular skulls don't faze me at all.
Alright, yeah, I can agree to that. And then the only other one that doesn't faze me is the blocker skulls. These guys don't faze me either. I'm inclined to put them right next to them. In fact, I actually prefer blocker skulls because they don't have armor like normal skulls do.
Yeah.
So, big fan. You can one-shot the blocker skulls. You can't do that with normal skulls. You know? As for all the rest of these skull types, hate them. Hate them. They're so tanky. They're so tanky.
Yes.
The pumpkins, I actually don't mind either, though. I think the pumpkins can go with the other skull types.
Yeah.
In fact, the pumpkins are just bigger targets.
I'd put them at like the top of B, maybe.
All right. They do have a chance to spawn smaller pumpkins on death, and that has killed me before a couple times.
Yeah.
So. In terms of the elite skulls, though, probably the easiest one to deal with is the poison skull, because skulls fire very erratic shot patterns, and the fact that the poison skull fires waves makes it much easier to avoid.
Yeah,
it's a lot more consistent in its shots, so I'm inclined to put the poison skull. It's the poison skull probably right around right here would be where I want to put it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Fuck these three. The trio of haha, you died. Still better than I think these crabs here. But like C tier, I think, for all three of these.
I would put the fire skull down in D, probably.
Really? Alright, where in D do you think?
I have no preference.
Okay, and put it at the top of D then.
Just because the area of effect on them is annoying. It can be.
It's very, very difficult to fight a fire skull without getting hit, because they just put fire, a sea of fire, fucking everywhere on the map.
Yes.
All right, and lastly, we have the worst enemy type in the game, grubs.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't like grubs, and on one hand, you can think they're kind of similar to slugs, the same basic concept, except that they are much tankier.
They're not.
Yeah,
they're slugs with a ranged attack.
Well, no, not the normal grub. I'm talking about just the normal grub here. Normal grubs don't have a ranged attack. But they're just like slugs in that they just run towards you and then suicide. Right, but their suicide animation is a lot more jumpy, so it's a lot harder to hit them when they close in on you. And but that's not the worst part. I mean, they're also tankier and have armor, which is not great. But the thing that I don't like about slugs, and I actually think is kind of unfair compared to the other enemies, is that grubs do not what's the word I'm thinking of when you show your attack beforehand? It's not foreshadowing.
Damn it! Now I can't remember.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Right? Where like
telegraph.
Telegraph. Thank you. Slugs and other explosive enemies telegraph their explosion radius. You know exactly how wide their explosion radius is and where you need to be to avoid them. Grubs do not do this. They don't telegraph their explosion radius, which means that not only can they ambush you from the sides without you knowing, but it's also much more difficult to tell when you need to jump out or how far away you need to be from them in order to avoid getting hit. And it's very annoying. Especially because they're like the same enemies, so when they're right next to each other, I'm just like, oh, this is so bad, Not a fan of grubs. In fact, I actually prefer the elite grubs over the normal grubs, just because these guys don't suicide on you.
That's a very fair point, but I understand where you're coming from. I also disagree. Okay. Because enraged grubs and chaotic grubs are just that rate of fire spam. Like, if you're on 1 health and you don't have a ton of DPS, you're just going to die against, especially against a chaotic grub.
Yeah, let's replace the grub in C tier first, though. But I definitely agree that the Chaotic Grub is worse than the Enraged Grub. I actually don't mind the Enraged Grubs, however. You are right in that the rate of fire is insane. However, unlike other enemies, like ants, for example, ants, like what you were saying before, they shoot where you're going to be. Enraged Grubs just shoot at you, so all you have to do to avoid them is just walk to the side and make sure you don't stop. So I find that Enraged Grubs can only be a threat if you don't know they're there.
This happens a lot, but that's fine.
On the other hand, the Chaotic Grubs, you are absolutely correct in that it's very difficult to avoid their shots. Like they're like they shoot targeted shrapnel. Fighting a Chaotic Grub is like playing with the shrapnel debuff on, except just tied to one enemy and on all of his shots instead of on death.
yeah, it's awful.
Yeah,
I'm putting both of those in D tier.
Really? You want to put them in D
yes.
tier? I'll agree to the Chaotic Grub, but I actually prefer the Enraged Grub over the normal Grub, so I'm going to put it in D.
Okay. B tier, that's...
You like my angry face that I put over him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I look at Enraged Grubs the same way I look at Poison Crabs and Pumpkins, you know? I think that's about right for me.
All right. Well, it is your tier list.
Yeah. Anyways, this is I think do you see any changes that you want to make to this tier list?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. This is our tier list, guys. This is my first tier list for Crab Champions. I had a lot of fun making all these logos, by the way. It was great. But I think that'll do it for today. So thank you so much for watching, gentles and laymen. Have a great day, and goodbye.
Still my heart beats again and again. I'm always searching for a love with no sense within